Welcome back to the Decision Masters podcast, everybody. How you doing? I'm Kirsten, and we are in a series to end all series right now. Now, we're just in another great one. We have a lot of good series here on the pod. And if you don't know, I want to take this opportunity to let you know there is a new blog version of the Decision Masters podcast. We are doing our best to put new episodes as they come out in blog form, because some people are visual reader people. And I'm trying to make this information as accessible and tangible for as many people as I can. So we have the video on YouTube, we have the audio on all the podcast apps, and now we have a readable version. That's not just the transcript, because have you ever read a transcript of a podcast? I don't know. Maybe you have. I haven't. My brain doesn't have the patience for that. It's like, oh boy, this is like 17 pages. And a lot of it is like nonsense tangents. At least it is if you're listening to my podcast. No, they're not nonsense. They're always useful. So if you go to kirstenparker.com/blog, you will see the current episodes. And then we are adding more and more back episodes as time goes on. There's a lovely little search bar, and there are categories you can click on and see, ooh, what did we talk about? FOPO. What are the episodes that talk about fear people's opinions? And you can see all the episodes there. And then you can also search for clarity, for example, and see what comes up. So we're just trying to make it as useful as possible. Just, doing our part, making your lives better. And on that note, let's talk about how to become more decisive. I think I started that sentence at the beginning of the episode, and I don't even know if I finished it. So we're in the middle of a series right now on how to become more decisive. And today we are talking about something that comes up usually in passing in a session. And I want to give it its own entire episode because it's a very, very important fundamental of decisiveness. Are you ready? Here it is. Deciding that now is not the time to make this decision is a decision. Let's expand. I was working with a client once who came to me to work on his decisiveness. He was very self-aware and very transparent about his process of thinking and his own tendencies to put decisions off. And what we came to realize in our conversations, where he would kind of dissect his decision making in meetings at his company he ran and in interactions with his employees, was that he was not actually indecisive. He was making a lot of decisions that right now, in this moment, I don't have enough information to make a clear-headed choice that I trust. Right now, we don't have the time to go into everything we need to go into to arrive at a decision. So now is not the right time for this decision. Sometimes he was being indecisive, and we talked about that because sometimes that's a thing. But a lot of the time, he was labeling his behavior as being indecisive just because in those moments, the decision on the table wasn't being made. So his mind made that mean he was being indecisive. The reason this deserves its own podcast episode is because how you think of yourself matters. And while we do want to be self-aware, we don't want to be in denial of our own habits and patterns that hold us back because, well, will we change them? We also don't want to live in the identity of our, I was going to say worst habits, but of the habits we want to change the most. It didn't serve him to think of himself as an indecisive person because that made it far too easy to label all of these things he did hour after hour after hour in a day as, well, there's me being indecisive. There's more indecision. Boop. Didn't do a good job today. Boo. D-. What I had him do was actually pay attention to these moments in these conversations, in these meetings where he did seem like he was deferring to later, deferring a decision to down the road. And I wanted him to stop and articulate out loud in front of people, in front of his team, or to the person he was speaking with. I'm going to decide that now is not the time for this decision. Here's why. Here's when we can revisit it. Simple. Now, you don't have to adopt this exact script. I don't want you to feel like you're giving yourself false deadlines and creating lots of pressure to like, well, I can't decide now, but like definitely by Tuesday. If that's not true for you, don't stress yourself out, friend. But you can absolutely start naming your decisions out loud to increase your confidence that you are more decisive than you might have previously thought, or even than you might have previously been. Because he did have this habit of, well, I don't want to deal with this right now. So that part of the habit, we did say, okay, that's some indecisiveness. We're going to clean that up, which requires a different conversation because we have to go into the fear of what's that about? What's the resistance about? What's the fear really of facing the decision in the moment? But if you start naming, I'm going to decide that now is not the time for this. You get to really become aware of your reasons. Sometimes you do have enough information, but you're tired and your brain is maxed out and you need to go outside or drink some water or watch an episode of Love is Blind. I am not judging. I am here to encourage you to take care of your wellness, however you need to do that. So you can decide now is not the time for this. I just want to be in a clearer headspace and have a little more energy to make this decision. Bam, done, clear. Do you have to put it on your calendar? I don't know. You might have to if you're a kind of person who's like really worried about something falling through the cracks, like you'll never circle back to it. So do what you got to do. Write it on a list, make an appointment with someone, put it on your calendar to revisit the decision. Doesn't have to be a lot of work. I do encourage you to just check in with, am I a person who will get back to this? Because it's just not going to be a problem. In which case, don't overwork it. And if you are a person who worries that if I don't do this now, I don't know when I'll do it because it's just going to like drift into the ether, then help yourself out. Make it easier for future you to get back to this in whatever way will help them out. Okay. This is your how to become more decisive nugget of the day. And it made a big difference for this client that I'm talking about. So I really want you to believe, even though it sounds small, this could make a huge impact. If you stop labeling every time you have the opportunity to make a decision, but you don't, as indecision across the board, you will make more room to see yourself as a decisive person. You will start noticing when you are doing that consciously, when you're doing that for a good reason that you like. Now is not the time for all decisions. And you know me. You know I am a fan of, can we just do it now? Can we just not put this on the list? The lists are so long. The lists are never ending. Can we just like avoid the list and just decide now? I love that option. And we live in the real world where we don't always have a clear head. We don't always have the information we want. We haven't always slept all of the hours that all of the scientists say that you really need to in order to function in your brain. Not always the case. So start paying attention to when you're not closing out the decision at hand, but you are making a choice and name it. Say it out loud. It makes a huge difference. I am deciding that now is not the time. This decision will be better if we make it with tomorrow's brain. If we've had a night's sleep or this stuff is off our desk and we have less noise in our brain, that brain is going to be better at making this decision. So I'm going to assign it to that brain. That's a choice. That's you being decisive. Okay. The other benefit of this, and this is where we'll wrap, is that you will reduce your mental load just by thinking about this differently. What does that mean? When you feel like you have a lot of open loops, a lot of decisions that are outstanding, not like outstanding, they are incomplete. They are not finished. They're not closed. They're open decisions. It weighs on your mental load. It makes you walk around with less and less space in your mind because your brain is holding on to all this stuff. Okay, we got to do this and we got to decide that. And that's still not finished and we haven't figured that out yet. Even if it is written down, I know you. You might have a color coded spreadsheet with all of this stuff neatly organized, and your mind is still bearing a heavy burden because of it. So, what happens when you stop identifying all of these things as just kicking it down the road? I'm putting all my decisions off. Meh. Is you give yourself permission to not carry that mental load. You get to not add that decision to the mental burden because you are deciding. Yeah, we're deciding we're going to decide this next Thursday. So it's not an open loop. It's just something you're doing on Thursday. Just like if you have a dentist appointment on Thursday, you're not stressing out like the dentist appointment isn't done yet. And it's Monday. That's not a problem because we're going to go do it on Thursday and then it's going to be done. Right? That's the clean, neutral energy that we want to be able to have with these decisions. We are assigning to later, not putting off, just assigning, scheduling, delegating to our future selves, delegating to the versions of us with better brains or more information or more time for this decision. And the final thing I said that was the last thing, but this is the real final thing that'll happen when you start employing this tactic to become more decisive, is that you will notice when the indecision habit is kicking in. You'll notice when you just want to put something off and you can't really name why. What you'll start doing, and you'll especially start doing it if we're working together, is you will start noticing when you don't want to make a decision now because you're afraid to get it wrong, or because you're afraid somebody's not going to like it, or because you haven't spent 5 hours researching, but you really know you don't need to. These are the habits that contribute to indecision that we can, I promise, clean up. But it starts with you recognizing them. It starts with you being able to know, okay, I have a good reason that I don't want to do this decision now. It's going to be better on Thursday. Now, this decision, I feel like I could make it now, but I'm afraid of XYZ when we work together. And we get to laugh at it. I do promise. We make it quite fun. But when we work together, we get to look at, okay, what is the fear? If you could make the decision now, but this stuff is coming up, I'm afraid to get it wrong. I'm afraid of disappointing someone. I'm afraid it's going to ruin my life. We can help you deal with those fears and actually close the loop in the moment and feel safe moving on from your decision, even if those fears still come up. So if it is time to work together, click one of the links in the show notes. You can send in an inquiry form. We can meet together. You can check out how we can work together right now, because you don't have to think of yourself as an indecisive person. It starts on the ground level. And this week, you can just name when you're deciding not to decide. It'll feel good. It'll feel very empowering, I promise. And if you want help, we can work together on it and make it go even faster. So I hope you have fun with that. And I hope you come back next week for the next in our series of how to become more decisive. I'll see you then. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.